We are getting closer and closer to the grand finals of the Four Nations. Only a few more matches to decide who will be claiming the final place in the final. Up against Venom Crest, I'm Greyheart. I'm joined by Rory and by Harold Hamhand. Great to have you both here. Rory, how are you feeling before this absolutely titanic matchup?
I'm ready for it. This is a key match. Like, we've seen how much BROD have been talking on social media. They've already got their tickets to Manchester next week, so they need to have a team playing. Otherwise, it's going to be sad pints in the pub for them. So it's backs against the wall for both teams tonight.
Harold, a Suuntai as fine as that deserves an absolutely fantastic battle to go with it. Do you think that's something we're going to get tonight?
I think so. I think both teams to have made it here, they've shown resilience, they've shown ability to adapt and ability to change the way that they need to approach certain. I think, at the end of the day, BROD are coming in, with a little more kick in their firepower today, but Belfast Storm are not here to just lay down their weapons and let it be a no call. So
well, we know who those two teams are. Let's have a little look and get close and personal with what their respective lineups are going to be for this matchup. First up, BROD and Friends. They're coming in from the regular season with an 8-1 scoreline. They are going to have top laner Akers, jungler Tofu, QQR in the mid lane, and it will be Sin and Little Pants, not Jamsu, down on the bot side of the map. An important substitution, but also crucially for the first time coming through this playoff stage, Rory, it is going to be a BROD and Friends unchanged from their previous matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you who don't know Lil Pants, who've watched through the regular season and haven't seen many of his games, this guy is so aggressive. I love him. Last split, he was pulling out stuff like Silas support. I think there was a Tarot game where his flash was never up because he was constantly trying to flash dazzle people. So he's really fun. This bot lane is so energetic. It's a great time to watch.
A little look who that lineup's going to be going up against. It's going to be the 5-4 from the regular split Belfast Storm, a team who have lost to BROD and Friends in regular, but only had that one game to show themselves. Sign-up Sprinter will be our top laner with Dunlucy in the jungle, Limsey in the mid lane with protection, and Sundax rounding out things on the bottom side. Any players there who really catch your eye, Harold, who are going to need to be the key performers to try and pick up this crucial win against BROD?
Well, Protection talked a big game after last week's win, so he's going to have to back up the talk, But in terms of what their team has rolled the road, it's been Dunlucy almost the entire time. Every time they've looked good, Dunlucy has looked excellent. So another UKL team that lives and dies by their jungler, which it's not surprising.
Well, from talk about junglers and ADCs to top laners, Rory, I know that you're really fascinated by a couple of things about this top lane matchup. Partly in terms of the summoners who we're seeing, a little bit to do with the itemization that champions just seem to be going for all the time. Let's start with that. Why is it that we're seeing Deadman's Plate over and over and over and over and over and over and over again?
Okay, so this originally started with Shen players. I argue just innovating this item. Basically, in most recent patches, we've seen a ton of tank items nerfed quite heavily. Heartsteel got hit, Iceborne Gauntlet gotten hit, just these staples of the top lane. So a lot of people have gone, Deadman's still chill though. And it gives move speed, which is great for getting back to lane if I'm ever out of position. And so we're seeing so many tanks rush it now. We're seeing Shens, we're seeing Cassantes. I've even seen a Garen rush it, which was weird. But I'm telling you, please know when to buy it. You buy Deadman's when you're against a squishier laner. Imagine a Riven, imagine maybe a top ranged carry. Do not buy it into other tanks. The damage doesn't do anything. Into another tank, Heartsteel is still the best item just so you can get free stacks, free health, and you scale up into the game. If you go first item, Deadman's, as a Shen into a Cassante, you're not doing anything. It is a wasted item and I will cry. So don't make me cry. Please. I'm very fragile.
You are fragile. The question is, will the champions that are being played by these top laners be fragile? And we'll get to find out a little bit more about that when we get to the draft very, very shortly. But when we see that draft, a little bit more about these two top laners. What is it about them that makes them such a fascinating matchup in your eyes?
So I see them as kind of a rock, paper, scissors dynamic because both Akers and Synapse play the same champ pool. Akers, I think, has a bit more flexibility because I've seen him pull out carries such as Camille, but they both kind of default to this Cassante and Ambessa whenever they're open. One thing we did see, though, which I think could be Belfast Storm's key pick in this series, if it's not banned out, is Synapse's Udyr. We saw it against Rise Gaming. I think it's a really good sneaker pick in this meta into tanks because you basically can never die and you push waves so fast.
All right, okay, so that's certainly something we're going to keep our eyes glued to as we get towards the draft. Harold, some thoughts to you, however. You were talking to me earlier on a little bit about how quite often we're seeing BROD and Friends stumbling through the early game. We saw it in their last game, a match they did eventually manage to win against Good Chi, but that they arguably made look a lot more difficult than most of us probably thought we were going to.
Yeah, I mean, they're a team that are kind of mercurial, I've come to terms with, but they live and die by their early game skirmish performance, where if they are able to get their leads and transition them into skirmishes around the first and second set of grubs, around the second Drake usually, they're gonna be fine and they're gonna just scale and they're gonna choke you out of the game, no contest. If they get contested and if they run into a team that will put up resistance and will outfight them in those skirmishes, they're going to have a hell of a harder time. We saw this in their defeat against 200 Bandits. With Lunkafor taking the lead in most of those fights, with having those aggressive picks that he will get, that he got that individual lead on, and then brought it to the fights, made it really difficult for BROD to play out their game, where they tend to get control of the map, get upwards of 4 to 6 grubs, and then they use the side lane pressure to just choke you out of the game slowly but surely, using the side lane pressure that Akers is generating on these side laner champions, using QQR's performances on those mid lane control mages where he's not really in a position to get punished and he just draws attention. It is a well-oiled machine if it can't get into gear. Otherwise, you're kind of boned.
I'm getting quite a sense from both of you in terms of where you think this series might be going. But let's have a little look, both from our own predictions and also those from the rest of our production team on broadcast today, and see exactly what everybody is thinking. And Rory, I'll ask you to start things off. What's your prediction and why?
So my prediction is going to be quite simple. I think a lot of people are predicting a 2-0 towards BROD and Friends. I think they're strictly better in the lane phase and better in the late game. So yeah, as you can see, we've all thought the same thing. I think after that loss to 200 Bandits, Tofu is a lot more aware of the time he's wasting on some of his plays. And we saw Lunkafor punish him for that and get so ahead during their matches. We know Dunlosi loves an invade. I don't think Tofu is going to give him as much as in previous series he has.
How about yourself, Harold? You're putting the same result as both myself and Rory for the similar reasons or other things on your mind?
I think QQR is going to be able to shift his lead that he's going to get through laning into Limsey more efficiently than what necessarily Synapse can do by mitigating the matchup in the top lane. It's a question of early game prowess and early game control, and I just think BROD have the better players to do that.
I understand that. For me, mine's come down a little bit to what I've seen these players perform and the way that, BROD and Friends, they're an 8-1 team. They only lost to Venom Crest in the regular split. But the main thing for me is the driving force of their other loss, a loss that they feel needs to be avenged. And that is the matchup that is awaiting whoever wins here. That's that matchup against 200 Bandits to decide which team will be going all the way to face Venom Crest in the grand final. And that is a match I think that BROD and Friends, for their own pride and their own well-being, can't afford not to be in. And for that reason, I think we are seeing a more refined, less chaotic BROD and Friends tonight. And I think there is a possibility it goes 2-0, and that's why I've put that prediction. However, everything always starts off the riff. It's in the draft, and already we're seeing some little changes here. Skarner, Zyra, Varus all banned away by BROD and Friends. By Belfast Storm over on blue side. On red, jungle bans coming through. Vi, Jhin taken away. Rory, what's caught your eye?
Well, the immediate bans towards the jungle are really interesting because Belfast Storm have opened with banning Tofu's, what I would argue are his strongest picks, and then BROD have just gone, fine, if you're pinching us, we're going to pinch you. So Dunlosi really out of this champ pool. We've only, seen the Maokai and the Poppy that he's jungle with so far. And with that Maokai locked in, you've got to imagine that's going towards the jungle.
It's most likely to go in there, but there is obviously the flex potential. We saw this a little bit in some of last week's games where the likes of the Zyra that had the potential between flex between jungle and support made the draft a little bit harder for the opposition. But no, I certainly tend to agree with you there, Rory. First set of picks coming through, 2 more power picks available. Harold, we can see that Ezreal locked in. How are things going so far? How do you like these bans?
So I really like the Varus ban on the blue side. If BROD have the possibility to pick Varus, they will pick Varus. It's been Sin's one trick this entire split, basically. And I think removing it is a good idea because anytime he wasn't on it, he looked kind of shaky. But
okay.
I am not a fan of the blue side Skarner ban. I think you're kind of like gutting yourself a little bit. No, I know Tofu is probably somebody capable of playing the Lilia, which is the known counter, the counter we've seen the most. But I do think having that proactive, really strong early ganking jungler is good. I think Maokai right now is in a bit of a state. He's not really that great, but he's not bad. But there's better. There's Sejuani was still available. There was a great many things available. And I think BROD, their answer is good. Ezreal plus Wukong make it really difficult for the Maokai to play. But through all of this, 2 of the premier hyper carries, both for mid and AD carry, were left up, and Belfast Storm have just secured themselves the late game.
They've given themselves a huge punch to have later on. And if either of these are able to get themselves ahead, that'll be huge. And now a lot of this game, as it already was going to, lies in terms of what Limsey and Protection can do. There's just a completely random shout out, but you were mentioning the Lilia there. Haven't got it in this game, very unlikely to see it unless this draft is a lot more crazy than I think it is. However, if you haven't seen it yet, go back and watch Friday's Four Nations broadcast. Go and watch the end of the final game and the way that Lilia impacted that series. It was a true highlight play in the Four Nations if ever I saw one. Speaking of highlights, QQR's Vigar always seems to be able to deliver those, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tried and tested pick for him. Really likes it into the Azir. We've seen him pick twice already, I believe. In his series that he's been playing for BROD. So interesting that it wasn't banned instead of, say, the Skarner or the Varus. I find that really interesting here. BROD immediately banning that Lulu. Not surprising, I actually think she's probably the best enchanter in the meta right now. Seraphine did get some damage buffs, but I haven't seen her performing that well. So I'm expecting BROD once again to ban another support that would help out this Jinx. Because right now, unless Belfast Storm are willing to flex this Maokai top and whack in an Ivern, they're kind of forced to play a less than ideal enchanter.
Interestingly enough as well, we talked about the potential handshake of top laners and that being one of your focus matchups, Rory. But with being potentially the Ambessa and the Cassant, I'm very, very surprised to see the Ambessa banned away and the Cassant left up now. I do wonder if they're maybe just trying to force the hand a little bit of BROD and Friends to show exactly what they're going to do, but they're not taking that bait. Instead, locking that Karma in. It does mean the Cassant now just there free and easy for signups to take should they want to.
Not a fan of this Carmen already.
We've seen it flexed into a Cassante, so this might be very big brain from BROD.
Okay, well, if that's a possibility, then maybe it's a trap that Belfast Storm be a bit worried about falling into. Potentially, it's just going to be enough to divert that pick away and leave a potential counter pick there right at the end for Akkas. What do you think, Rory?
Definitely a counter pick. Yeah, I'm seeing the Gnar being hovered here with the Ambessa down, which does pretty well into Gnar. I wouldn't be surprised at being picked. If Akkas is willing to jam an Aurelia here, though, it gets very scary. Yeah, Jace makes a lot more sense.
There it is.
I don't love the Udyr into Karma Vigar. I think that's going to be a really hard team fight for him to pull off.
But you were talking earlier on about how it's one of those signature champions for signups.
Yeah,
and actually,
into tanks specifically.
So the problem is now you do get counter picks against you, and as you said, you're playing up against the Mad CC train of the Vigar, of the Karma. Potentially going to see this volley bear locked in to round things out. Harold, that is a wonderfully puzzled expression on your delightful Waluigi face.
I am not sure that this is what BROD needed. Volley bear. I mean, Everything about these drafts is fine, excluding the top lane for both teams. They both suck, honestly.
Well, considering they've been left so long, I mean, Rory, is that a statement you'd agree with, Harold, there?
I wouldn't say they suck. I'd say they go neutral. They both achieve a purpose. So Volibear, you're wanting to get proxying, sit on side lanes, draw a lot of attention up to him. He clears waves incredibly fast. Volibear, you're looking for a very early lane dominance. Basically, you can always blow an Udyr's ghost very early with your damage. But also the tower dives that sets up. Tower diving with a Wukong alongside you is basically a guaranteed kill on anyone but this Maokai, I feel like. So you can make some very interesting plays here.
The draft now completed. The teams will be facing off on the Rift with the coaches having done everything they can to have set them up for success. My question is to you, in a world where all of us have said 2-0 to BROD, is there enough about this draft, enough about the agency that you wanted to see Belfast Storm achieving to have come through, Rory, that you would change that prediction in any way, shape or form?
Actually, looking at this draft, I think Belfast Storm have a pretty decent angle. Limsey and Protection are on champions they're very proficient in. Same with Synapse. I can't say I've seen a ton of Maokai jungle coming out from Belfast Storm, but maybe I may have missed a few games on that one. Overall, I think they actually have a very solid back-to-front draft. And although this Udyr may have difficulties getting on top, if he's just the wall, then a back to front develops where you've got an unkillable front line and the Jinx just goes haywire.
So very quickly from both of you, is there enough about this to change your prediction and say, I think Belfast Storm is going to take a 1-0 lead in this series? Just one word answer. Yes, no, maybe. Rory?
No.
Harold?
Maybe.
And with those wise words of wisdom, we are going to throw over to our ever wonderful casting duo, over to the fantastic J-Real and Adrian Savonix.
Let's get into this one. It's another day. It's another game of League of Legends, and it's well south of death. Thank you very much to them to put us in this position. So it's because we got a game in our hands, right? We got a lot of fighting. We got a lot of things to break down. I want to hear your thoughts on that top lane, though, because everyone's hating on it on the desk. I feel like I like it from BROD, at least.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's definitely ups and downs to both sides, but I have to emphasize, this is Synapse Sprinter, right? He's got a special pick. I've seen many times he's run this champion into compositions where it's not necessarily favorable for him, but he makes it work. He's that experienced on it. He's got so much pedigree on a competitive level that I trust him to make it work. This is Synapse Sprinter Udyr we're talking about. And of course, Volibear, this is some sort of howling abyss Freljordian matchup in the top lane. But, you know, when we look at the bog standard Brexit UK top laners, this is the storyline I want to follow.
But if we're going to talk about name for name, like this is, yes, Synapse, right? I've cast this guy for years and years, but this is Akkers, right? UKL Akkers playing for BROD on a counter pick as well, on something aggressive, which is the big thing. I don't know, we've been kind of talking about a lot in the green room, right? About get Akkers on something that he can really run with. And he has the opportunity here to smash up the lane, become a massive split push threat. Oh my days, my words are not working today. But then cause major issues with Belfast. And I think Belfast, right, if we go to late game, if we're there at like 35 minutes, they have such an advantage with the front to back, like the desk said, right? It's going to be very hard to break down. But what if they get split up across the map? What if they don't get to team fight Sylvanex?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting point. Now, actually, one thing I wanted to kind of caveat here is, you know, often I feel like with the players that BROD and Friends have, leaving open Synapse Sprinter his best champion, that gives me the idea that they had a plan going into it. But QQR, though, getting caught.
QQR had a plan to get a ward down, and Sundax is immediately making him regret that. Limsey also with an extra bit of damage there. QQR going to lane with a third of his HP gone is not going to be too happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's Veigar Azir. This is essentially a scaling mid lane matchup. But yeah, going back to the top lane matchup, I think what would be interesting to see is how both these teams transition from the early game to the mid game. I'm taking a look at the side laners here. That you have the Udyr against the Volibear, and then you've got the Veigar against the Azir, where they place themselves depending on whether strong side or weak side. For me, I think Belfast Storm, they actually want to play it towards the Udyr Volibear matchup as opposed to the Veigar Azir. Leave that Veigar Azir alone to scale up slowly. Start getting some gold either on your Udyr or maybe put your Jinx, rotate over to a top side or something, make a play with advantage numbers, and there you get the lead from Synapse. Because if he does get ahead, if he gets those statistics on, Udyr is one of those stat-checking champions that becomes extremely difficult to kill. And whilst Veigar does have a really, really good scaling against the Azir, I do think there's a lack of tank shredding on the side of on BROD and friends here. But Tofu looking for a gank.
Tofu going for that early gank, getting a little bit of pressure onto Limbs, equalizing out the health bars. Both junglers, though, pathing towards the top side, right? You talked about Belfast wanting to play for Synapse. Well, it's going to be matched by BROD. So how you feel about the 2-for-2 is going to be interesting. But also my mindset as well is like, could Belfast not also play for protection? Because Jinx, if we get to scale, is going to be absolutely unstoppable.
Yeah, they definitely can. I think what makes it difficult is they are against Ezreal Karma here. However, Sundak's potentially looking for a hook here.
We'll get a bit of damage now, but this is risky though. Like, you're quite far pushed up. Ezreal with 3 shots, flash blown already, and protection now having to reel back too. Like, that is not a trade Belfast wanted, and BROD punished them heavily.
Yeah, I was literally about to make a point about Ezreal Karma, and then they just did it for me. Like, right there. It's very difficult to make a play onto these two champions. They're very slippery, and if Ezreal does actually get caught by any CC, you have a Karma to just back him up. I think one of the strengths with Karma right now is she does so much damage for a support champion. Not many supports can match the damage profile of what this Karma champion can do. You can see right there, Jinx, Nautilus, they have strengths in their own 2v2 trading, but not anything close to what Ezreal Karma can do.
Yeah, right now Synapse is able to get quite a nice lead, like pushing in Akers a little bit here, but this is the power of Volibear, right? You don't want those extended trades, gonna have to walk back, and we are actually gonna get Donlosi onto this bot side, but look how low protection is, right? Obviously just gonna help them push this wave in, but I do feel like Donlosi, like, I was imagining he was going to go kind of lane to lane to lane, ganking off, but at the moment he's been very, very controlled, very quiet, due to, I feel like, BROD just having good positioning.
Yeah, BROD, I think what's really nice about the way I'm seeing this bot lane play is they're playing aggressive, but kind of on the edge of who aggressive is. Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. They're still playing out. Synapse is almost dead.
Talking about on the edge, man. Synapse, like, I feel like you gotta be a little bit careful. Obviously, Udyr able to stay alive for quite a while, and now running Akers down, who has no mana. This could be a solo kill. Early Akers is gonna fall. Synapse timing it to perfection, and like you said, right, that's his champion. So maybe you're right. Maybe Synapse is gonna start to run this lane.
Yeah, first blood locked in already in the top lane, and like I said, yeah, just as I said, Synapse, don't give him this Udyr. How many times have we seen this man on this champion? Doesn't matter what the matchup is. He's going to perform in it. He knows exactly what to do, and he started this series off with a bang.
Now, Dragon, Grubs, I feel like if I'm thinking for Belfast, right, you want the team fight, so Dragon seems like the one on the table, but giving over Grubs to BROD feels a bit dangerous, especially with the Volibear potential split push, right, coming in later. But at the moment, it does feel like neither team particularly prioritizing objectives. They're still just getting their junglers to farm up.
Yeah. I think this is definitely going to be a slow game. If we just look at the double carries here, we have Azir, Jinx, they take time to ramp up. Similarly, Ezreal has a bit more fighting power in the early game, but Veigar is a champion that doesn't necessarily one-shot until a specific point in the game or until he has enough stacks to be able to. So it's a slow burner, and I think we're going to see a lot more of those individual interactions in the matchups there, like, for example, a solo kill in the top lane, or maybe a potential 2v2 trade in a skirmish somewhere. But other than that, the early game is going to be pretty slow standard, as we see Donlosi on these Grubs. This is a really, really important objective, especially with the fact that Synapse is kind of accelerated in the game. What these Grubs essentially do is it creates so much side lane pressure, and if the Udyr is already ahead, this is going to increase that pressure a little bit.
And also tower taking from the Jinx, right? Protection, exactly, it should not be understated. I know I talked about it with the Volibear, but also, like, come on, Jinx against the tower. We all know who's winning that one. It is going to be traded for the Drake, right? Wukong will be able to pick that one up. So Tofu takes objective for objective. So no loss in the way towards the boots gain. But I feel like I in my mind, someone is right. I was coming into this game with, like, BROD not having good early games recently, right? And I thought Belfast might take the opportunity to just try and win out from the get-go, but it feels like they kind of opted into the late game style. And I don't know how I feel about that because of how good BROD can be in the mid game.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand the idea behind that, but also the way Belfast Storm operate is I think Limsey and Protection have both been such important players to carry through a lot of their games, and Azir Jinx are their comfort picks. Like I have seen Limsey is probably one of the best Azir players that we have in the UK L4 Nations, and Protection's shown that on these late game carries can be a hyper carry for Belfast Storm, and so I think as important as it is to focus on, playing against your opponents, you also got to be at your best yourself. So put yourself in the best possible position, i.e. comfort, put yourself in the best champions. And I think Belfast Storm, they back themselves, and I respect it. They're saying we don't need to stop them from doing what they're bad at. We just need to show up our game, and well, we'll see how that turns out for them in the end.
No, comfort definitely can be king. Well, everyone got their predictions out there. Mine's on Twitter, right? I said 2-0 to BROD. What's your prediction, Sovnix, for this matchup?
I honestly, I don't think I can put a scoreline on it, but I do think BROD and Friends are probably going to win. I think, funnily enough,
put a score.
Okay, 2-1 BROD and Friends.
Okay, that's respectable. I actually think that is probably the most likely.
Honestly,
I wanted to go bold, the Destiny 2.
No, for real. I actually think it was probably 2-0 to BROD and Friends until I saw this draft, and I was like, maybe 2-1. Yeah.
It can be a game changer. Like, whoa,
Yo.
mid lane.
Hey.
Whoa, QQR going to go down. Limsey picking up the kill as well. And hey, we talked about Belfast Storm in the late game. They're starting to get themselves a little lead here, and they're 600 gold up. And, Don Losey starting to make some things happen.
Yeah, and well, actually, interesting point, because obviously both teams have good late game team compositions, but I have to say, Belfast Storm can actually do a lot more at the level 6 mark than BROD and Friends, because Wukong doesn't necessarily have that much power until 2 items, whereas you have Azir, past level 6, you can shuffle a mobile mage like a Veigar into your Maokai, that's chain CC and a free kill. So whilst the, in terms of heavy hitting comes later on, there's a lot of gank setup, there's a lot of potential to catch any immobile targets off guard. So really nice play towards the mid lane. This is something, junglers do often miss out when they play with an Azir. Like, you have fantastic setup where if your mid laner can pull off a shuffle. So QQR has to die though.
And are we expecting neutrality for the next few minutes, right? Because obviously Dragon coming up in 2 minutes, right? Grots will be around the same time. Like, are we expecting again another trade between these two teams, or do you feel like now that Belfast are starting to get a bit of momentum, maybe they pick it up a bit?
I really think BROD and Friends are going to want to make sure they don't give over 6 grubs. You talked about already the siege potential of Jinx. Azir is a champion that has incredible siege, and so you give 6 grubs over to a team composition that has an Udyr, Azir, and Jinx as Akers loses his flash straight away. And you're going to be in a world of trouble. So BROD and Friends really need to make sure they don't give 6 grubs over.
Well, we will see. It's starting to spawn up, and at the moment, Synapse is having a pretty good time here. TP going to be coming through. 3 members in the top side. Synapse, though, with the full rage bar, though, could definitely just get out of that easily. Will go into the Ram stance and get away as Dunlosi now dropping forward with Nature's Grass. They're going to get onto Mitch, but is it going to be enough damage? Like, Sundax is slowly joining, but Limsey is on the way. It's 4 versus 3. BROD need to get out of there, and the shuffle comes in. Tofu locked up and taken down.
Yeah, it's going to continue, though, because QQR is here.
QQR is back in the cage, goes 3 members, but out goes the Maokai. Dunlosi setting up. Synapse so low, bursted down. Primordial Burst takes down 1. It's a 3 versus 3. Sundax also a little bit too far forward. Akers trying to get the damage, but has to run away. The rocket goes wide as Dunlosi will pick up Akers again, but is there more? QQR, a lot of damage still in the chamber. Sundax is so low, but they just can't get into range.
A lot to break down there. Akers went for the reset after blowing the flash. TP's back and forces the play. It was Mitch and I think it was Tofu as well that came around to go for Synapse. But in came the cavalry. Dunlosi, Limsey set up a play to back up their top laner. And it was a massive, massive fight that resulted in a kill for the Azir. Then QKR came in. But the thing about Veigar in the early game, you have that initial burst. No more fighting after that. They continued to fight, and the DPS started to take over. It was Limsey on the Azir, stacked up that lethal tempo, and it wasn't enough DPS for BROD and Friends to match up to that. Belfast Storm win out that fight. Synapse able to TP straight back to the lane phase, and 6 grubs secured for Belfast Storm.
They lock it down. Dragon might be traded, although Tofu's not there yet. So there is a world where, you know, Belfast could go for that play as well. They've pushed their majors into the top side. QQR does have TP though, so could be joining, but I think it should all cool down. I think BROD will get this Dragon. I think it won't be contested. And then it comes down to how they play towards these towers, right? Because at the moment, I feel like we've kind of had it chilled out, but in the bot lane, the tower is starting to go low towards BROD, right? Sin has had a lot of time to pick up this gold, pick up these plates.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very, very good that you mentioned that, because obviously a lot of action happening towards the top side of the map, benefiting Belfast Storm. But in the bot side, there is a slow-growing monster. They picked up 2 dragons. Sin has grabbed a lot of plates and a very, very handsome CS lead as well. And so maybe for BROD and friends, it's time to start shifting that attention to the bottom side, as those topside players didn't go as well as they expected.
Yeah, Triforce locked in protection without his first item as well. Could potentially be a moment where they can push that momentum a little bit faster. However, I do feel like with Tofu going back, that's going to take a little bit of the sting out of their attack. And we're now seeing Synapse opt in for the proxy, which I am a little bit surprised by. I thought he would just try and push tempo and force Ackers out of lane.
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind proxying is you get the farm, make it awkward for your opponent laner to farm, and avoid any interaction in the... Oh, bot side.
Oh, okay. Okay, a 1-for-1 so far, and Sin, it feels like he's looking for more, but has to be careful. Dunlosi is in the wings. Nature's Grasp is available as well. Maybe Belfast pull the trigger, but instead they're just going to let it go. Sin, I think, potentially could win against protection in the 1v1, if not in a minion wave.
Yeah, 1-for-1 in the bot side is the result of that 2v2. I'm not sure if Dunlosi had any interaction there, but pretty surprising. I think Protection's going to be pretty happy with that one. It's a Karma Ezreal lane, so any trade you can get out of that is a positive one. But because it's traded 1-for-1, it is Sin still with a pretty big gold lead.
Oh, but maybe not for long, as we are going to see the jungler rotating round the low C, going to make their presence known. He's going to be caught by Mitch. Nice dodge from Sin there. Will keep him away from the roots.
Okay.
However, the fight might continue. There's the knockup. Dunlosi in trouble. Moving forward. The Ezreal going in, but cannot get the distance. Sundax will be the one they take down, though. A nice pick up for BROD. It does go over to Mitch, but again, another kill, and now more pressure onto this tower. This could be their tower taken right here, right now.
Yeah, BROD and friends, they have discovered their strong side, and they're going to break down this bot side turret. First turret given over to BROD and friends, and despite all that topside action going the way of Belfast Storm, BROD and friends, they have such a... Oh, QQR! Solo kill!
Oh, QQR against Limsy, man. Limsy with another solo kill. The Azir looking phenomenal right now. And I don't really know what's happening with the Veigar, right? I don't know how they're going to bring Veigar back into this one unless we just get those big team fights where Limsy isn't able to get into that backline. But you've already talked about the Azir being so prominent later on in this game. However, Sovanix, I want to bring our attention to the fact that it's 15 minutes in. It is dead even in gold. Kills slightly ahead to Belfast Storm. Towers slightly up for BROD. And we have 2 minutes before the next Drake, which surely is going to be the big fight.
Oh, this is going to be a massive fight. You do not want to give over Soul Point. It just makes that, Soul Dragon contest very awkward. The pressure will be high. And yeah, I'm honestly quite surprised that the gold lead is as even as it is. I'm assuming a lot of that is in the pocket of this Ezreal. There's leads on Belfast Storm basically everywhere, but Sin getting an entire 5 plates on the bot lane is injecting a lot of gold into him. He is working towards that man immune as well. And so for BROD and friends, they're going to be looking towards this Ezreal. It's a good point you made about the Veigar, because I don't know. I said this was a farm lane, but I've seen a solo kill as if this is like, LeBlanc versus Zed or something. So I'm quite surprised as the how that's played out.
I just wonder how they're going to quell that, because if you keep losing QQR to Limsy, that's going to be a problem. Now it looks like obviously they've gone for Veigar matching up against Synapse. We'll see how that one goes, because I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of issues potentially with that lane too. But Ackers maybe also pushing back Limsy, as we do see it on the mini map. But Herald is going to be the thing to play for at the moment on the map, and BROD are very much heavily favoring that top side.
Yep, as I mentioned earlier, I think Belfast Storm and BROD and friends will opt into this 1-3-1 setup, and they've actually gone the opposite sides of the stick. It's Synapse against that Veigar. And I think the idea here is QQR should, theoretically, I want to say this carefully because I said this about Azir matchup, but apparently I was wrong. He should be safe. He should be able to just stay back, throw in some Qs, get some stacks, However, Akers against the Volibear, this one is... I'm quite scared for Akers here because Limsey is 3-0. He has Merc, so no kill threat from the Volibear. And so...
Well, you say that, but they both ulted. They was off screen, but Akers and Limsey have both ulted just a few minutes ago. And there was definitely a bit of a fight, and it seems like they've come out pretty even.
Yeah. Actually, to be fair, now that you mention it, like as we start talking about the names, this is such a cool game. Like, if you've been following the UK scene, like these names date all the way back to when the UKL first started, right? And we fast forward to right now, where UKL is about to go to a LAN finals, and here we are casting a game with such old guards, some new faces here and there. But what a time to be alive, eh?
No, what a time. No, the names do go way back. Like, I was thinking this earlier, the league has got some history players in it right now. But to bring it back to this one, because it is going to be a poignant moment, we're going to get Herald picked up for BROD, but Belfast are going to go for that Drake. So once again, another trade to Phoenix. We're not going to get the fight that I want to see. I'm sure you want to see it as well, but maybe we get to see a punish onto that Udyr top, or maybe we actually just get the fight post-Dragon. I thought BROD might try and stance up for it, but instead, it looks like they'll give it for free.
Yeah, it looks like no fighting. What's that show? Where that's from?
Peaky Blinders.
That's the one. Sorry, I'm uncultured. But there's a fight, actually. No, there's no fight.
No, there's no fighting right now.
Yeah, it's just going to be a trade of objectives, and I think both teams kind of understand, right? As we transition towards the mid game here, is if you give anything over, that's a major swing of gold. It can accelerate the game extremely quickly as Akers TP's into the top lane here.
Yeah, and Psyops could potentially be in trouble here. Akers going to back off, though. Will collect that farm and stop his tower from going down. Worthy for the trade, and might actually just try and continue the fight. I know that Psyops has won earlier, but Akers is feeling pretty confident right now. Does have the Stormbringer as well, so could go all in if needed. Whoa. And at the moment, definitely chunking out Synapse.
He's actually a level ahead as well, so... whilst Akers has been matching the Azir, Synapse going forward here.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. About the matchup, but it feels like you shouldn't be doing that, Synapse. It feels like that's the wrong way to go. But the team are coming through, right? 3 members of Belfast still now in the top side. Surely Akers respects this. The wall to save him as well, and Akers stays alive.
Yeah, these guys know something I don't. That's why I've stopped playing this league, and these guys are still going on. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know too much about how Udyr is 1 HP, but running out of Volibear. I mean, that's why he's the Udyr guy, right? And it's quite cool to watch because you're just like, what are you doing? But obviously, he's confident. He knows what he's doing. He's fine.
Yeah, and the next question that we have about what you're doing is, what are we doing about Atakan, right? Because that's spawning in less than 20 seconds now. All of BROD are pretty much on that top side with QQR exception, as right now Synapse is potentially in a bit of trouble here. Should be able to walk away though. CC immune. But yeah, at the moment, QQR is the only one not on the top side, but does have TP, and it feels like priority is very much over to BROD here, and Atakan would be a big game changer. Yeah,
I mean, Atakan's a risky objective to start if people are alive, but yeah, as you can see, you have Belfast Storm all kind of playing towards the bottom side where there is currently no objective at all. I guess you can make a play towards that Veigar, but he's playing very, very safe towards that turret. And so you have BROD and friends having priority on this Atakan. And obviously Belfast Storm, if they want to play it, they have to enter through their top side. But right now, look at the top side of the jungle. It's just lit up with BROD and friends members. So it's going to be tricky if Belfast Storm actually want to enter it. But they're looking for QQR.
Oh, the pressure on the bot lane. We've seen this before. QQR in some trouble. Lindsay chasing him down. And that is an easy pickup there for the Azir. So pressure has been put on that bot side as BROD are going to start up onto this Herald. Movement is happening, though. The Jinx moving up there. Should be able to join in with Dunlosi. And it makes it a little bit trickier going for this fight. The Herald crashes, gets a decent chunk on the tower, but it is going to force Atakan away. So no Atakan for BROD. They will leave it at the moment.
Yeah, and... well, you get that crash, it doesn't break down the turret, but QQR dying on the bot side, you had to get something over on that top side. Unfortunately, they had to drop the Atakan with contest coming in, and it does open up Limsey to break down that bot lane turret. And so if Azir was ahead before, he's even further ahead now. He's got 2 items already. Once he completes the base, probably going to work towards a Rabadon's death cap. As he gets a needlessly large BROD. And yeah, this is not a good look for BROD and friends, and especially for QQR. He played this last week and showed a good performance. But I think BROD and Friends are going to be confident to try start this one again. Aka's, though,
Ooh.
pretty low, so we'll see if a contest comes in. Don't think it will.
Should heal up quite well off of the Atacam. But what I do like for a moment in thought is that QQR is going to play Vega, right? He's scaling. He's got the rod. It's now hit to the 10 stacks. It looks like he's going to go for the hat as the rocket. Oh, I thought the rocket was going to steal it. It's not going to be, but the flowers are what is important. This is so much experience that will be picked up here by BROD. So Atacan taken, and that will give them a lot of extra stats for their buffs. As right now, yeah, I don't think they're going to be too sad, but QQR is going to scale, right? We can all agree that with Deathcap, with the Rower, like, he's going to be able to scale quite nicely into the game. He is still even in levels with Limsey as well, but that pressure that Limsey is able to exert is massive. Towers now being absolutely destroyed by Belfast Storm, taking tier 1 and tier 2 in the mid lane.
Yeah, it's a lot of gold pumped into the carries, the Synapse.
Ooh, Synapse. Let's get the tower, but maybe in trouble here. Stormbringer utilized Akazo. Does he have the movement? Can he catch down the Udyr? He can't at the moment. He will just have to walk away and go back to the wave. Dragon is the next one on spawn. No TP available for the Volibear, not available for the Udyr, but BROD have to walk into the side of Belfast Storm, which is a tough prospect.
Yeah, and suddenly Aka's starting to win out that matchup as Pofu and Little Pants, they enter this Dragon.
They're moving forward. Sunlax in a bit of trouble here. Protection able to kite this one out, though, getting very far away from Tofu. The knockup not going to land. And BROD, they just cannot get into this fight. They can't lock down Belfast Storm to make them fight them.
Wow, I was thinking with teleport advantage there, that was a clear-cut opportunity for BROD and Friends to get an edge on this game, but Belfast Storm, they quickly grab that objective and get out of there. They equalize that Dragon score. BROD and Friends traded those 6 scrubs for those early 2 drakes, but they haven't been able to capitalize on that. And that's, oh my god!
All right, Limsey, you need to be careful, bro. Almost losing his life straight away, and Synapse might actually lose his. That's a lot of damage, and he will be going down. Nature's Grass doesn't hold anyone at bay, and BROD take the tower, take a kill.
I was going to say, Belfast Storm, amazing to get that second Dragon, but you are not obligated to keep this mid lane turret alive. You've already broken down 2 mid lane turrets of your own. This is a fine structure to just give over to your opponents for what you ended up getting. But then Synapse, no flash. It was burned earlier by Akers. Steps up to try and defend that turret. Dies. Limsey almost got nuked as he TP'd into that to try and defend it. And so bit over-aggressive from Belfast Storm, a bit disrespectful as well to kind of not respect the damage of a Veigar. Veigar's actually managed to get that Rabadon's death cap, so it does do a lot of damage, and I think maybe a warning sign for Belfast Storm to ensure that they do not slip up because there is a lot of damage there.
And there was already pings on Baron coming out from BROD. So they might have this already on their checklist. They might be looking just to push the tempo. And at the moment, it feels like early game objectives, Belfast Storm had it on lock. But BROD, they're holding strong in these late games. They're pushing people around. And Akers has started to become a massive monster that Synapse may not be able to contain. Sundax, they're meeting Sin in the jungle, finding that it's not a fun party.
Nope, not a fun party. And again, the quiet killer of this game, Sin on the Ezreal, slowly building up his lead. He's 270 CS to 195, working towards that Serelda's grudge. And once he does that, Udyr and Maokai are going to be easy targets for him to shoot down. So I think Sin on the Ezreal, he's one to keep an eye out on to see if he can carry a lot of these fights. But Belfast Storm, curious to see how they play the next few minutes of this game. They have a good lead. They have an Azir that's accelerated into the game. But the last few minutes, I feel like BROD and Friends are starting to ramp up.
I only just realized Sin has TP. I don't know how I feel about that. He TP'd to basically tier 2. I don't know if that's worth taking the summoner when he could have had something earlier on. But, you know, we'll have a judge as we are potentially seeing the flank here. This could be huge for Belfast. The hook going to land on to the front line. But is it going to be enough? They're doing quite a bit of damage, but the Wukong is staying alive. Sin, however, in trouble, trying to get away. Limsey going in, gets taken out. Sin finally falls down as Synapse trying to make his presence known. Mitch on the run, going to be locked out of a chance to escape. And that will be a 2-for-1 to Belfast Storm. But the top side, that tower is under threat.
Belfast Storm got full vision control of that topside jungle, and you saw what happened there. Sin tried to walk up to just poke out a Nautilus, and in doing so, ate a dredge line to the face, got CC'd for about the duration of my lifespan, and just couldn't get out of there as Akers. I think this bear is dead.
Akers like went to get the tower and then decided to recall on a ward, knowing that the team are up there. Like, this is bold. I would say
he's out. He's out.
Maybe stupid, but he's out. You know, he's out. He's walked away.
How's that happen then? How's that? Up the Akers. Go on, lad. I'm a bit confused, obviously, because this was very valuable time. You killed 2 people. You had a window to potentially pressure that Baron, but I think chasing the volley bear there was a bit costly because not only did he get out, you didn't really capitalize off killing 2 people, especially the Ezreal, really, really key target to take down. And doing so, BROD and Friends, they don't actually lose anything off that fight, and they're even in gold.
Soul Point coming up as well. 49 seconds before the next Drake. So far, we haven't had any Drakes being contested. It's just been single takes. The Baron is also up, though. You know, the Baron is a fair trade. I do feel like both teams could do it quite quickly if they set all their members there. But at the moment, I just feel it. I feel it that Akers is going to keep split pushing. It's going to force BFS into a decision, right? Do you take on the bear? Do you go and protect the objective? At the moment, BROD is set up so well for this dragon, it's going to be hard for Belfast to contest.
Yeah, and I think Belfast Storm, they need, like you said, they need to make their way in. Their signups doesn't have TP. Akers has his available, so he needs to get down there as soon as possible. It's 10 seconds away from spawning. Still very far away from that objectives. They're going to contest for mid priority here, and I suspect a fight could be happening soon.
Yeah, we saw it before, right? Sin can get locked down for a long time. Slippery as the Ezreal is, it can still be held, as we are going to see the TP now finally coming through around the back of the Dragon Pit as well. So protection needs to be careful. Doesn't actually have any protection right now. And here comes the bear. Akers into the backline, going forward, looking for the ADC. Gonna have to jump out, though. So much damage from Belfast. Just turned around. A protection going low, but stays alive. Sin now trying to move backwards. The Dragon will be taken by BROD, but they lose a member. Do they choose to fight after? Then walking forwards, Tofu getting aggressive, but just tempering his play for the moment. Sadax with the hook. There's the Cyclone to get the knock up, and they're starting to move out. 1-for-1 overall. The damage from the Veigar is massive, and Belfast do not want to face check BROD.
And somehow it's actually BROD and Friends that come out ahead of this play. They are currently on Soul Point. Dunlosi has to die at the end of that fight. It was Akers who actually bought so much time. Kind of split that in half. I'm not sure if it was a bit of a miscommunication there, but you saw the rest of BROD and Friends on that objective. All Akers did was kept the rest of Belfast Storm at bay by jumping onto protection. Everyone on Belfast Storm knew we cannot progress any far forward. We have to keep our Jinx alive. And in doing so, BROD and Friends just melted down that dragon, secured themselves Soul Point. But then Sundax tried to look for more than he could handle. He went for the hook. Protection was already chunked out from that jump on by Akers. And BROD and Friends are the ones that actually pick up that last kill in that fight. And so it's a 1-for-1. Dragon over to BROD and Friends. And I mean, it's a small lead, but this is probably the first time that they're ahead on gold in this game.
Yeah, up 300, you know.
Go on then.
It's insane, but I agree though, right? It's the first time BROD and Friends have been up ever so slightly, and that is a big swing coming in from Belfast, right? They've been in the lead. They've had that side lane pressure with Synapse, but Akers now very much in control. Protection looks good in the fights, and so does Limsey, but QQR's damage is insane. He's up a level as well, and Sin is 2 levels up against Protection, right? BROD and Friends, they may not have that gold lead, but they've gained that experience lead massively, Sovnex.
Yeah, they definitely have. And I think that Artican was such a key factor in doing that. I remember at one point we were so confident in Synapses laning into this volley bear. Randomly, Akers comes in and a level ahead and starts winning the trades, forcing flashes and all that. And well, that's the value of the Artican. And I mean, at the time you mentioned how important it was. Belfast Storm were playing towards the bot side. They weren't worried about that, and now it's coming back to haunt them.
And the bot side is still so strong for BROD, and I do like this from Belfast Storm, right? They're really good on a pick, right? They're so strong at taking someone down, and they can lock anyone in BROD down for ages. So they are going to start this Baron. They're going to force BROD to walk in blind, which is not something they want to do. And the Baron is going down so fast. 2,000, goodbye. An easy pickup for Belfast Storm.
Yeah, 3 items here, 2.5 items Jinx. You just need a few seconds of a window to take down that Baron. Belfast Storm really like that they went for that good experience of this team to know that this is a window of opportunity. If they get them Baron, let's see what they can do with it.
And they are just Rotating into the bot side jungle. This is a risky spot for BROD, though. It's a 3 versus 4. They're playing with fire, and it looks like they might get burned. They're trying to walk away. Tofu is holding the line. The damage from Sin is good, but they need to be careful here. It's still a fight against their favor. Lindsay swooping in, looking for the fight. Not going to be able to find it. Akers with a great stun, but QQR could be the next on the list. Flashes over the wall to stay alive. Mitch is still there as well, and now Akers in the middle. It's going crazy. The Veigar gets 2, and they're looking for more. Dalosi goes down, and BROD reigns supreme.
Oh my lord, the damage from the Veigar has suddenly appeared. He had a troublesome early game, but he's got the stacks, he's got the items now. You walk into this Veigar, you're walking into your goddamn doom. As everyone from Belfast Storm had a Baron buff, they got that first kill onto Tofu. They were so confident running into that jungle blindly, but they forgot. This little magician is going to burst you down, and that is exactly what happened to the entirety of Belfast Storm.
It wasn't clean, Dominic's. It was very much hands checking right there. The flash over the wall from QQR. You know, the dashes away, like the way that they played the fight to get themselves timings. It was so close, but they managed to get out. QQR now maybe not going to have the same fate in his own fight against Synapse here. This should be a pretty easy kill for the Udyr, and there is no rebuttal for QQR at the moment. Needs a couple people in front of him, and it's an important timing on the death, right? 52 seconds. Dragon will have spawned before QQR's back.
Yeah, that is a really, really big kill. Doesn't have the teleport either. So for BROD and friends, there's probably not a good chance to go for that soul. Synapse does also have the Baron buff still. He is the one person that stayed alive at the end of that fight. And so he can pressure the side lanes whilst that Veigar is dead. Probably their best source of wave clear right now. You see Belfast Storm moving over into this Dragon. There's a 1v1 happening in the top lane, I believe.
It is indeed. The Azir versus the Volibear. Limsey in some trouble, does get away though. Ultimates both going to be burned here. As on the bot side though, Belfast Storm absolutely smashing through this tower. Surely we're not getting a base race from BROD, who are only on tier 1 in the mid. They have to go back to base, right?
I don't know about this one, BROD and friends. I mean, they do have position on the Dragon off the back of this right now. Tofu has a decent spot here. QQR has respawned. Akers is pressuring that top lane turret, but I'm curious to see what's going to happen here. I've seen Tofu do this before, finding insane flank positions as this Dragon. I think it's going to get started up now.
Akers does have TP as well, can join the fight. Limsey does not, so it could be a 4 versus 5. Sundax is going to find Tofu. It's going to make it difficult for Tofu to go for the steal. The Ezreal not going to find the damage, and Tofu will have to just run away. So BROD, it was questionable. I won't lie, that was a questionable play from them. I don't know why they gave up so much in bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, they gave the entire inhibitor and the Dragon. This was not the best chain of events for BROD and friends. It started with that death on the Veigar. QQR died over to Synapse, and off the back of that, Belfast Storm got themselves so much resources on the map. It's now 3-3 in terms of the Dragon count. BROD and friends, they have that Veigar back on the Rift, and I guess they're looking to pressure this mid lane turret now. I'm surprised that they're not sending the Veigar to stack on those super minions in the bot lane, but we do have this setup here. Veigar on the top side, Volibear on the bot side.
I like the Volibear because he doesn't lose much health. He can clear them fast with his passive, right? He's able to do a lot. Also, he can very much match Synapse, who should go with the strongest wave. But I also agree, like, you know, QQR could have got so much more out of that. However, at the moment, it feels like BROD, they had such a good mid game, right? They were doing so well, and then it just got a little bit too much, and now they're starting to make mistakes. They are still a gold ahead, which admittedly at this time is not that big a difference. But I wonder how this later stage is going to go, right? Baron will spawn soon in minute and 30. A big fight should happen, and Belfast Storm have been looking stronger and stronger ever since that mid game happened.
We are entering a period of the game where it is one fight make or break left remaining. I feel like for both sides, that I think they understand the stakes at hand. If you drop a silly mistake, if you drop another death in the side lane, you saw what happened. One death off QQR, an entire bot side has just disappeared off BROD and friends. I think both sides know we cannot slip up at this point in time. I've seen QQR I've pushed up very far up while the rest of his team is a little bit mismatched on tempo, but Sin.
Oh, Sin in trouble. Knockup is there. The root's down. The damage follows protection with the kill. Akers TP's in, but has to run away straight out of this fight, but does not get the opportunity. Akers is down. You talked about one fight could change it all. This might be it. 37 seconds till Baron. They can start moving forward. Who is going to defend?
Yeah, they're going to keep going onto Little Panther, but QQR's here.
QQR is here, Synapse in the cage, but this tower, it's going to fall down. That's one gone. They only need to take down 2 more and an inhib, and they're on their way. The Azir, the Jinx, the damage is there. Tofu, how can you stack up? QQR, can you get the damage down? It's raining in, but it's not enough. The Losi going forward, looking aggressive. Needs to be careful, though. That's one down. They've taken one of Belfast Storm. Can they get more? The damage is still there. The damage onto the towers is going. The second tower is falling. Belfast Storm are moving in. They're going to ruin everyone's prediction. It's going to be Belfast Storm taking game 1.
Hey, room predictions. I called the 2-1 off the draft, so don't worry. I felt like Belfast Storm. They picked their moments. They found the windows of opportunity and they made the most of it. This was such a fantastic game to watch as a series opener, mainly because we saw how these two teams have players that so much experience, so much competitive experience, and you can see what that experience does. You make a small mistake, they will take your entire base, and that is what happened in this game.
Yeah, BROD had many hands-diff moments. It feels like BROD definitely have the players, but Belfast Storm had that macro. They knew how to take their win, and BROD just didn't. They gave them over a hand, and then BROD, they couldn't bring it back. You know, they couldn't take back what they had already lost, and Belfast Storm, they capitalized beautifully. So, with that being said, it's a 1-0 to Belfast Storm. BROD need to now reverse sweep to take themselves to the next stage. Can they do it? We'll ask the desk after the break.
Oh boy, that was a series. Well, it wasn't a series. It was the first game of a series. What a series we've now got with a 1-0 result for Belfast Storm, meaning that all of our predictions are out the window, and so seems to be BROD and Friends' game plan. Rory, what did you make of that?
That was really well played by Belfast Storm. You know what? I'm going to be positive about this. I think Belfast Storm played really well on the best champs they could have drafted for themselves. And the fact that they were given these amazing champs for Belfast Storm is just a happy opportunity that was granted to them.
All right, we've heard from good cop, over to bad cop. Harold, what do you think of that?
How can I say this without not getting an invite for next split? I think BROD overestimated their mechanical ability and their macro prowess in the mid game. They thought they could just get enough of a lead or enough control in the game that they could run away with their lead at the 20-25 minute mark, which is where their comp spikes. And they couldn't, because from the side of Belfast Storm, we saw a controlled game, a game where they realized where their strengths were. They were in the Azir and they were in the Ezreal. A game where Synapse solo killed Akers. And honestly, it was a very well executed game. I think they secured themselves the late game early enough in draft they could just control it. Honestly, it was just really well done from the side of Belfast Storm. BROD need to tighten up the reins a little because they were sloppy, and honestly, they didn't look good almost at any point. There were a few flashes of brilliance, but not enough.
We are not a million miles away from the second draft of this series, potentially the final draft of this series, if that's to be the case in the final draft of BROD and Friends season. I think that it's important to touch on what needs to change coming into draft. But first of all, let's reflect a little bit on what happened in that draft. For me, the key moment of that draft was Blue's second round of picks. Being able to pick up Jinx, Azir, and then allowing those champions to go relatively untouched, unscathed, allowing to scale up was a big part for me of BROD and Friends' downfall, Roy.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that QQL was bringing out the Veigar as a direct opponent to the Azir. It was saying, no, I'm really confident in this lane. And yes, he saw a lot of pressure in the early game from Sundex and Dunlosi, and his flash was basically always off cooldown because he had to protect himself so much. But he did get solo killed. So your big answer to this Azir is kind of dead in the water at that point. One thing I really find interesting as well is both teams were banning out so many junglers in that first rotation. Maokai, who is the next premier jungler, comes through. And then the Wukong, you were saying it in the green room, he didn't do much. Proactively, he didn't do much. I was expecting to see a few dives coming out, but we didn't see a single dive from the side of BROD and Friends, and you have a volley bear on your team.
I looked at that sort of as someone who loves watching jungle mechanics, and for me, neither of the junglers, neither Dunlosi nor Tofu, particularly set the world on fire with that. I think there's massive room to improve and to make a series performance which we haven't really seen yet. And I think a part of that comes from the bans which were targeted towards them, some of these premium champions that are taken away, but also just the way that things are played. And absolutely, as you're saying, Tofu certainly missed opportunities instead of what could have been executed on. As we come towards this second draft, Harold, what sort of changes would you hope that BROD are going to make? One change they've not made is side selection.
Yeah, they're keeping it on the right side. They value the power of the counter pick, which I think is fair. I do think they need to use the counter picks more aggressive. They can't draft themselves into lanes. They're comfort lanes, but they're not winning lanes. The Volibear doesn't win early into the Udyr, so it doesn't guarantee you like a push into enemy jungle with the Wukong to take away camps. Veigar doesn't really do anything. So I do think there needs to be adaptation. There needs to be more go buttons, honestly, on the side of BROD.
Well, from theory crafting into reality, we are into this second pick ban phase, and I don't expect to see a huge amount changing on the side of Belfast Storm. They executed their game plan pretty much to perfection last time, and it is now for BROD and Friends to come out and show they can do something a little bit different. Bans starting the same way, Rory.
Yeah, immediately we're seeing that's gonna be answered. I'm having a bit of tech issues on my end, so maybe Harold will be able to cover the rest of the bans right now as I'm still waiting for them to come through.
We've had Vi and Jin yet again banned over on red side, and Varus pinched away, so everything's exactly the same so far.
Okay, seems we're back out, but yeah, more jungle pinching that we're seeing come out. The same champions. So far, Maokai didn't get banned out.
No,
as in so far, but we've only seen 2 bans from each side. I do think.
Absolutely.
Oh, and the Zyra are going to get banned away, so everything remaining identical from Belfast Storm. If it's not broken, why try to fix it? And over on the other side, the response now has to come through from BROD, where they make the decision of, do we keep to the exact same bans, which they do, and potentially just allow just a rematch from game number 1. Do they have answers this time?
Immediate.
I mean, why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you look the Maokai?
I mean, yeah, fair enough, but what is the adaptation? Now we have to wonder. What is the current thinking on BROD side?
I mean, maybe, just maybe, there isn't adaptation. Maybe they just look at it and go, we know what we did wrong in the last game. We're happy to just stack them up, rack them up again, boys, and this time we'll take them down. But so far, that's kind of how things are playing out. Rory, are you surprised about this from BROD?
Sin looked really good on the Ezreal last game, actually. Him and Mitch combined were winning lane. At one point, Sin just naturally had a 30 CS lead, just from being stronger than Belfast Storm. If this is locked in, that's lovely right now. Seeing that Udit locked it's still a flex pick. Like, we see mostly Udit in the top lane these days, but remember, he is a jungler. He can jungle, mind you, and he can clear faster than a Maokai, that's for sure. What would be hilarious here if Synapse tries to answer with a volley there? That'd be something I love. I would love that.
I just don't see a world where we don't see the answer of Jinx and Azir coming through again.
Why
and
not?
Already looks like that's exactly the way things are going to go, Harold.
Oh god.
We've lost
if
Harold.
It ain't broke.
Buddy, we've lost Harold.
No, man, this is honestly, like, why wouldn't you go for Jinx's ear here for the side of Belfast Storm?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're already securing yourself the late game. Again, you're securing yourself that early to mid game damage for DPS in the Azir. You already have the Maokai to set you up. It's almost like we've seen this before.
To the shock of roughly no one, that Azir is indeed locked in. Things have not changed over on the side of Belfast Storm. There is obviously an enforced change going to be over on the top side with the Udyr having been picked away from them. And before it can get banned away, it looks like the Ambessa lock-in is going to come through as well. This is going to affect not only what we're seeing from the top and jungle of BROD and Friends, but also how these bans are going to play out, as that Ambessa was a first ban last time, Rory.
Yeah, Ambessa was... I actually think she was banned in second round.
Sorry, first ban of second round, that's what I meant.
First ban of second round. What I'm interested in now is QKR will have his pool pinched. So I'm not expecting that Veigar, even though it didn't perform that well in the lane phase last game, I don't expect that coming through. And maybe looking at something like a Silas also banned out from Belfast Storm, but no, they're actually banning the Brawl. Just trying to reduce this bot lane pressure. I mean, pinch Sin's output in damage in the early game, maybe. Yeah, if you want to play for dragons, makes sense.
Renekton going to get taken away from the top side. Roy, just briefly back to you. You talked earlier on about almost this handshake of Cassant versus Ambessa. Do you think that's what we're going to see here?
Yeah, honestly, I am expecting Synapse to go towards that Cassante. With the Udyr down, I really hope Synapse doesn't get baited into a champion like Poppy, because I've seen it so many times and fail so many times that I expect it just to be a Cassante into the Ambessa, like we've seen so much in the current meta.
Another enforced change coming in with the Vigar being banned away from QQR, so mid laner and support still to be picked up here. With the way things are panning out at the moment, no changes other than the enforced ones over on the Belfast Storm side, Harold. Do you think there have been enough changes and good enough changes coming through from BROD and Friends as this Akali gets locked in against the Azir?
That is a full melee topside for the side of BROD. I think the change is good. You're leaning more into your mechanical ability. You've taken away probably the premier pick for Synapse. Then again, if Synapse goes Ornn here, yeah, I don't really see a way where you can shred through the Ornn before the Jinx gets a reset.
Absolutely agree.
Have to shred through an Ornn and a Maokai as well, and potentially now with that lock-in coming through, a Nautilus as well. So this is a mighty tanky front line that is about to play Protector for two. There's not many American football teams that throw out two quarterbacks, but that's exactly what we've got here for Belfast Storm to borrow Blox's interpretation of the game. And it looks like we could see something a little spicy coming through on this last pick.
He's done it!
It's BB's Ambessa counter.
All right.
You just out-dueled her in early game.
So what we're thinking about this, Rory, is this has this changed everything?
Oh boy. So this went from rock paper scissors to rock paper scissors gun. With the wolf being right there. We have seen Warwick get nerfed in lane a little. Yes. His mana costs have gone up on most recent patches on his Q, but this champion is so insanely good at dueling. I'm sure you all know him from solo queue.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately even. He basically can't really get Ambessa ulted because he just ults towards behind himself to avoid the CC and to suppress Ambessa. He wins every fight, and it's lovely. Look at that side lane pressure. It's so strong.
We only at the very last moment saw any kind of adaptation coming through from Belfast Storm, forced as it was with their top laner being taken away. And I just have to ask you here, Harold, who has made the most adequate changes to deal with this next match? Do you think this is going to be Belfast Storm now powering through to a 2-0? Or is there enough coming out of the individual skill of BROD and Friends, but also these matchups that they've now got for themselves?
I mean, there is potential from BROD side. They have the champions that can make it happen. The question that will come, like the meat of the issue right now is: do you have enough firepower in this early game? Do you have enough skirmish potential to just make it impossible for Belfast to scale?
Super fast final question. We've all got it wrong with our predictions. The question is now, is this going to go to 1-1, or is this going to be game, set, match, to borrow my tennis colloquialisms, to Belfast Storm? Rory, what are you going for?
I actually think Belfast have this.
Okay. And Harold?
Yeah, I'm gonna be a turncoat too and say Belfast 2-0.
Well, I'm just to make things interesting, I'm gonna believe in the reverse sweep. We love ourselves some Silver Scrapes. We'll be hearing them after this game. Only way to find out. Keep tuned in, keep watching, and listen to the beautiful, effervescent voices of J-Real and Savonix.
Damn! What a way to get quoted. Shout out to Greyhawk. That was a nice little compliment right there. Effervescent. Okay. All right. But either way, we're back into this game. I'm not going to switch it up either. Right. Savonix, make sure you're unmuted. But I am not going to switch this one up. Right. I feel like BROD can win. However, I don't like the draft.
I think there's positives.
Okay.
I will say, throughout the split, if anyone's been following, Aka's Ambessa has been such a highlight reel for them. He's been so good on this pick. Now the draft itself does look a little funky, can't lie. But in terms of the matchups, I mean, I'm gonna trust Rory on this one. I don't know too much about Warwick and Ambessa, but the way he said "oh boy" before he started speaking, it's got to be a good Warwick matchup, right? But I'm focusing more on the mid lane. Limsey was a problem that last game. He was an issue. Akali, much better at neutralizing what Azir can do towards the mid game than the Veigar. Veigar is you just kill minions, and if Azir happens to kill you, then kind of your fault, but not much to do there. Whereas Akali, a lot more kill pressure onto that Azir. Once level 6 hits, Limsey has to be on his toes at all times so that he doesn't drop a solo kill.
You know, liking this from that bot lane. They're getting that pressure up from the Nautilus. They know Alistair can't do too much in that bot lane. And one thing I want to say is a lot of comfort once again picked for Belfast Storm, right? Warwick is the only new pick in this roster, and that's because Tofu took away the Udyr, right? Also, I have to say, Alistair for Mitch is crazy, right? Like, this is like his main, this is like the bread and butter. This is the thing that I see them play the most, and it could be dangerous, right? I think it can set up pretty nicely. It also, I think, gives BROD that extra step in getting into the fights. And one thing I will say, Sovnix, that I do like about this is BROD were hella scrappy. They were really hands checky in that last game. I feel like now that they've basically got a load of people that want to dive in and move around a lot and be kind of assassin-y, like, I feel like that's very much hands check territory, and I feel like BROD could make a lot out of nothing in this game.
Yeah, exactly. I think the identity of BROD and Friends throughout the split has very much been, we are going to play our game, we are going to take it to your face, and if you cannot match us with it, you will lose. And I think this composition, whilst, you know, holistically might not make that much sense, I think similar to what Belfast Storm had last game, their players have their champions. Akers has Ambessa. There's a really nice matchup in the mid lane. Mitch on the Alistair, as you said, this is his bread and butter. This is Mitch Alistair is equivalent over a Synapse Udyr, right? So I think BROD and Friends, they have their champions, and it's do or die match. So it's have to see what their comfort picks can do. But
Warwick is so scary when you're both low HP, right? The healing is unreal. The fact that he also has the barrier cannot be unforgotten. Needs to be remembered. And also, I'm like, this is a random shout. I find it so weird looking at Mitch and saying Mitch and not Little Pants.
Right. Honestly, I remember back in the day, like, when I used to run organizations, I used to try to sign this guy all the time. And yeah, it's weird seeing Mitch, right? Because, like,
yeah,
just know, you know, Little Pants. I recognize his little Alistair profile picture. Like, this is just in my head. Bring back the
Little Pants name. What happened to that? Someone, let me know in chat what happened to that one. But either way, back into this game. I feel like I feel that BROD need to, you know, the big improvement from last game is the macro, right? Because I feel like BROD were winning. Okay, they were in such a strong position. So they had it in the palm of their hands, and then they just didn't play well around the bot lane push. They didn't play well around the pick after that. And credit to Belfast Storm, they took the opportunity when they got given it, right? They were able to take what they wanted. They macroed it really well to the end game. And BROD, like, they could have taken that win, but they fumbled. You know, they fumbled the bag completely. And I feel like that's the big upswing now, right? They just need to play the game cleanly and show us that they can do it, and then they can win these games.
Yeah, I absolutely echo your sentiment there. Like, BROD and Friends were in a great position. There was a point in the game where fights were looking like QKR was dominating them, and what went wrong? Like, you know, I just remember that trade for, what was it? Base, like tier 2 turret for like inhibitor, a tier 2. I was like, come on, man! Like, that's not what you want to see. But of course, for BROD and Friends, I mean, we'll see if this new sort of setup is going to bring them any more luck. But throw it to the other side, it's pretty much the same thing, right? It's just instead of Udyr, you have a Warwick, which is very, very different in its own respect, but it's 4 of the same champions for Belfast Storm. And if they play the early game the way they did last time around, it's going to be really tricky for BROD and Friends, because last time they had the Vanguard to match this game. They don't have that anymore. So scaling is heavily in favor of Belfast Storm.
But I do like the early game pressure that Udyr can give in the jungle, right? The objective control is crazy. 1 already picked up, right? Hextrex secured. He should be able to run up and go get the grubs as well. I don't really see a world where that can be contested. And even in the 2v2, right, of the Warwick and the Maokai versus hackers on the Ambessa and the Udyr, I feel like it should be winning for BROD. So I want to see BROD maximize their early game, maximize that usage of the Udyr to get big leads and really start to take the game from there, because they can do it, right? They could make things happen, but this could be a tough gank if Limsey is going to be their target, as they're obviously very mobile.
Yeah, very tricky to gank. I think Udyr, Akali, pretty good champions in terms of lockdown, and we're seeing another play onto Synapse here.
Warwick is not going to have too much opportunity to get out, although has managed to create a gap there. Could get out, but flash. Not going to utilize the ultimate. It's going to force that one.
That's so cold.
It was pretty cold. Really nice fit, really nice grab.
Yeah.
But I will say, I am surprised he decided to flash and not ult, but maybe he's waiting for the fight that is going to ensue now, right? Over this grubs. Smite coming down as we are going to see the pick onto the Carly. QQR gets out Tofu though in maybe a bit of a precarious situation. In goes Ambassador Akers with the play. First blood to BROD, second blood to BROD. Will it be third? Ding, ding, ding. Round 3. Synapse takes the kill, but he will be losing it. 3 kills to BROD and some grubs. Only 2, not 3, but overall early game win.
Okay, that was a massively positive fight at the start for Belfast Storm, but I don't know if anyone saw. There was a 3-man true shot barrage fired over from the bottom side by Sin that caught everyone in a line of Belfast Storm, and that turned the entire fight around for BROD and Friends. They pick up 3 kills. Sadly, Warwick is an interesting 450 Blue Essence champion, so he did manage to pick 1 up in the 1 versus 4. But massive, massive play for BROD and Friends. I think 1 grub did go over to Belfast Storm, so it wasn't a complete set. But great start to the early game from BROD and Friends. Much better than the last game. And yeah, I mean, maybe this composition is what they need to win the early game.
And QQR now on the up, right? Was down in the last game. Now 2 kills up. Synapse chasing Akers, but might need to be careful here. Does not have the ultimate now without the fear. Akers also has his jungler here, so Tofu gonna join in the fight. Synapse in trouble, and the Warwick, he's healing, but he's not healing enough.
Yeah, no flash, no barrier, no ulti. These are the tools that makes Warwick so frustrating, but with all of that down, beautiful gank timer. Tofu reminding Synapse, hey, remember what this champion does? It's one of your own. So goes for the gank onto Synapse, and they go 4 kills up.
4 kills up to 1 now with a big gold lead as well, 1.4k, which was I think BROD's biggest gold lead in the last game completely, and that was at 36 minutes. This one is much more meaningful, and they have that dragon 2 minutes away from potentially pressuring that dragon as well. Tofu so proactive in this game, and it's what I want to see. I want to see them really push the tempo, because like you said, right, scaling is really there for Belfast. They may not be able to match it this time around from BROD, so they need to take the game away from them before we get that close.
Yeah, it was mentioned on the dash. Tofu, such a pivotal player for BROD and Friends in terms of getting those cogs turning and making sure things happen on the map. And then the Wukong, lack of setup, and so okay, so mid lane stuff happening. These guys dashing, but yeah, lack of setup on that Wukong in the last game meant that he wasn't that impactful. This time around, he doesn't need facilitating. He is the facilitator himself, and we're seeing the difference it's making. The gold lead extremely big for the current moment of time in the game. And for Belfast Storm, this is a chance for us to now see you played that last game whilst ahead. So scaling, very smooth sailing. This time around, you're going to be having to scale from behind, and seeing how they adapt to that will be an interesting one. Oh,
Sin. Don't get picked. Please don't get picked.
So some PTSD from the last game. Oh gosh.
No, indeed. Bro, what is the healing? No, we got to flame it right now. Okay, Blocks are like, you better be watching because it's your champion on the field right now. But what is this healing, man? Like, Warwick is so broken.
Yeah, no. So Warwick is one of those weird champions. Like I said, 450 Blue Essence, very outdated champion design. But what comes with that is a ridiculous, like, sort of stat. As you can see, you're like, why isn't Akers going for the kill? The thing is, Warwick actually increases his health regen or lifesteal by 50% when he's below half health. So, yeah.
Protection in trouble. I will say 4 members in the top side does mean that your ADC is in trouble. And Mitch with the ability to... Oh, Sin! Oh, no! Sin! No! The tower takes down the ADC. It's a 1-for-1. He had flash! Oh, my days!
And that's just dead on top as well.
BROD!
Oh dear. I was gonna commend them for this play, and then trading 1-for-1. Not great.
And we knew about the topside play, right? We saw that coming. We knew that Synapse had members joining in. Akers was going to die at some point if he didn't back really far away. The grubs are going to be taken as well, but the bot lane play could have been so much cleaner. They will pick up a dragon for it, though. It is still going to be pretty even on the objectives neutrally. I think it will be 1-2 in the feats race. But what can BROD do to stabilize? I feel like at the end of the day, waves were missed for protection. There is some things that BROD will still gain from that, getting that kill, but it could have been so much better.
Yeah, just for context, I wasn't laughing at the play. I was laughing at your reaction to the play.
Of course.
Akers
is trying to do some things. Dunlosi does need to be careful here, and QQR going to be jumping in. Could make this even more scary. Synapse able to get a little bit too close, but there's the perfect execution. The damage is massive, and goodbye to the Warwick. The jaws of the beast have been broken, and it looks like BROD will be able to get out as well.
Yeah, really, really positive play. At first glance, I was like, this is a numbers advantage for Belfast Storm. I don't know if you want to do this, but what they did was they kept that Azir chasing them as opposed to them running into the Azir. That made it very difficult for Limsey to get the Emperor's Divide off. Synapse had to just chase them down, didn't have the infinite duress, and so BROD and friends, they pick up that kill despite the numbers advantages. And Bessa and Akali, we talk about outdated champions. These are indated champions, and they have a lot of dashes to work with.
Very much so. So hard to lock down, so hard to auto attack and just stay on top of. Synapse also not having infinite duress as well does make that a little bit more difficult. And I feel like MC, because he hasn't had that early game lead, isn't able to do as much as he was in that first game.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the Azir not as high pressure as in the previous one, but I think the biggest factor is QKR in a lot of these skirmishes, objective skirmishes, has picked up a lot of the kills. Just makes Limsey's job very, very difficult. It's really funny whenever the camera pans over to this Warwick. He's like chunked out, but then he just isn't dying. So I always get a little like catfished by that. But yeah, no, interesting thing to point out is last game, Limsey opted for the Nash's Tooth Azir build, which is kind of the bread and butter. That's what everyone goes with the Azir. This time, he's going for the Liandry's into Berserker Greaves Azir build. So it's a bit of a... I guess it does more overall DPS later on into the game, but at the start, you're lacking a lot of on-hit damage.
Talking about lacking damage, it might be a fit-in issue for Akers. He's going to be able to do quite a lot to Synapse. No barrier available, but the infinite duress, the ultimate, is going to be there. And Dunlosey also in the wings, very much trying to protect Synapse in these games. And it does beg the question, like, what's happening in the bot side? It is much more even this time around than it was in that last game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Ezreal Karma was a really, really powerful 2v2, whereas Ezreal Alistar, whilst, you know, Little Pants is a fantastic Alistar player, the actual duo and pairing itself isn't as powerful. They almost like contradict each other in terms of what they both want to do. And so I think in that sense, they're not applying as much pressure, but they are still in a decent spot. I also have to preface that the dive going 1-for-1 for protection was massively positive for him. So I think if anything, that is probably what is making this bot lane matchup as even as it is. But I think for BROD and friends, this is a decent early game. They just need to push their lead a little bit more towards the mid game, mainly just because of the scaling. But top lane, 1v1.
They're going in. It's a 2 versus 1.
Not 1v1.
No opportunity to heal any more. And Naka's able to set up a nice kill. So at the moment, BROD putting a bit of pressure onto that top side is starting to yield them some success. Can they open up a tower? That is going to be the next question. As we are seeing some more objectives spawn, right? Herald going to be up in a minute. Also the Dragon, the third of the game, which would be sole point for BROD, will be up in a minute 30.
Yeah, QQR, mate, looking much better this game than the last game on the Akali. And what's kind of scary is for the Azir and the Jinx, they don't have like an enchanter on their team to help peel this Akali off of them. And so QQR is going to be the main focus for me in a lot of these team fights, seeing how he can get into that backline. But Sin, looking like he's going to get dove here, but there's no wave, so he should be fine.
Yeah, no wave plus Slippery Ezreal plus Alistar being pretty close makes it sound like it wouldn't be the best time for Belfast Storm. However, I will say Dunlosey and Sundex are going to be quite tanky, so maybe could make something happen as the Dragon is going to be spawning in 50. Members from BROD are starting to be around that bot side jungle, but the warding from Belfast is really good. They've set up so much control around that bot side to keep their bot lane safe.
Yeah, they're going to be very, very safe in this approach. Sundice almost, just as I said, safe. He just goes for a dredge line. Yeah, vision control looking really, really good for them. However, I think my issue is towards the mid lane. Priority is good, but if you have QQR coming in as a cleanup unit towards that fight, that is a very scary look. And so the BROD and friends actually moving over to the top side to look on this Warwick here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised here. I know that the damage could be there, but it's, again, a little bit risky. And also, giving up the soul point, it's a bit of a question as no. Mitch getting shot in the back there, loses his life at 3 versus 2. BROD maybe getting a little bit too comfortable here, feeling themselves a bit too much and overstepping and giving over a big window for Belfast Storm here because they might just take the full tower.
Yeah, they could get the full entire turret here. This is a massive amount of gold that goes over to protection. Sin is trying to defend it. QQR moving over from the mid lane, but it's too late. It's already gone. I think Belfast Storm have an opportunity to get this dragon as well. And it's just traded for the Rift Herald, which is not that awful. But you can see Tofu making his way over. QQR will follow. They are going to try to contest this.
Four members in the pit. TP coming in. Akali moving down. Dunlosi looking for the Drake. The steal would be massive. Akka's going forward. Protection in trouble. Having to run in the pit, though. It's close. It's taken by Belfast Storm. Dunlosi secures it. BROD will not take anything for that play.
How on earth have they just gotten away with that? They have managed to take everything on the bot side. An entire turret. A dragon, and no one has to die.
Absolutely insane. If we had another person here, they would be saying, how can Dunlosi keep getting away with it? If you know who that is.
I know who you're talking
about. He does keep getting away with it, though. You know, I don't quote him often, but it's fair.
No. I mean, at some point, it's got to be intentional, right? At what point is it, luck, and at what point is it, this guy's just the GOAT jungler of the UK. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Dunlosi is good, but Doctor does have a point sometimes, so who knows? But either way, it is going to be the Atakan in the top side. It's 2 minutes away though, so still a while, and we all still have the feats. Oh no, we don't have the feats anymore because BROD have managed to pick that one up themselves. So Akka's in trouble. It's a 2 versus 1. Nature's Grass coming in. Does have about 50 dashes though, so Synapse, can you lock him down for long enough? At the moment, it does look like a yes. The damage is raining in, and Akka's is gone.
Yeah, Warwick and Maokai, there's just so much CC. There's enough damage to get through that Ambassador, and Akka's drops again. And the kill score at one point was 7-2 or something like that. And over the last few minutes, Belfast Storm has racked up kill after kill. Gold lead is starting to shrink a little bit for the side of BROD and Friends. Belfast Storm, they're like I said, I literally said the transition towards the mid game is going to be something I'm looking at. And Belfast Storm, they're looking like they are in favor of that transition, and they are starting to close in on that gold lead.
Yeah, it is giving the feels of last game, BROD having a lead and then Belfast Storm taking it back. Admittedly, in the last game, Belfast Storm were actually the team that first had that lead. So there is still a lot of pendulum moments that could occur, right? I do think that both teams are still very much in it. And BROD are going to try and start to open up this map with this mid-tier 1. It will be a big tower to take. The dive as well going to be coming through too. Which obviously with the Unbreakable will able to stay alive for very long, but it's about to run out, and so will his HP. Oh, wait, Synapse on the side, coming in, infinite duress straight onto the Udyr. Goodbye to them as well. Sin with a really nice dodge onto Limsy. The QQ are now in no man's land, takes down 1. Maybe they are the one that is not in trouble. They've taken down 2. Can they get more? The Warwick on the chase, but I don't know how close you want to be to this assassin. Akali still moving around the rift, trying to get closer and closer to Ambessa. Synapse with the dodge, no shuriken available. There is the reduced damage. Synapse goes down. QQR is still alive. Dunlosi picks up the kill finally, but Limsy in trouble will fall as well.
And that's why he came in for BR3. QQR comes into this roster for the playoffs and just absolutely outperforms everyone for Belfast Storm. This looks like the game-defining fight for which Belfast Storm would take control of this series. But at the end of people dropping, it's QQR who emerges. He eliminates 2 targets, fights back over towards the top side, gets Akka's involved in that fight, and somehow, someway, outplayed the entire roster of Belfast Storm. And BROD and Friends keep their gold lead, they keep their hopes in this series, and they're looking good off the back of their superstar mid laner.
The confidence has to be rising again. Another outplay of mechanics alone coming in from BROD. A fight that shouldn't have been in their favor, but it ended up being turned around. And Belfast Storm, they're looking really strong in the macro, but they are starting to get a little bit outplayed in some of these team fights. But how long can that go? We saw in the first match that it doesn't take you all the way. And Belfast, they still got to be confident. They're still looking very strong.
Very good indeed. I mean, we saw the threat of what this Belfast Storm team composition can do. The Azir Jinx, they're not even at their power spikes right now. But even then, BROD and Friends, they have this Akali to rely on. This is the key member to just keep themselves in the UKL. This is an elimination match. QQR is the old guard, holding it down, holding down the fort. Belfast Storm, they're going to rely on this Azir Jinx, and I think they still have the tools to do that. Let's not forget, the start of that fight was pretty rough for BROD and Friends. I think Mitch, with the Unbreakable Will, I've seen Alistair's tank 1 billion damage with this ability. He pretty much got shredded quite quickly, and so this isn't even power spike yet for Jinx Azir, and it could be scary as the game goes on.
Dragon going to be the next one to fight, over 20 seconds, and it seems like Belfast Storm very much putting their eggs in this basket. They want to be there. They've brought Synapse down as well, but they are going to be met by BROD. Dunlosi needs to be a little bit careful, though. It's quite tight, tanky. We'll be able to walk forwards as in goes Akers, getting the lockup. Protection, going to be able to flash away, doing so much damage over this wall, untouched as in goes Synapse, now able to rampage in the back. QQR in status, in the backline themselves, is going to be found in their own fountain. Double quick time. Belfast Storm, 3 versus 3 against BROD. 2 members down each, but it looks like Belfast Storm in the better position.
It's a 2-for-2, but the Azir is alive, which means they get a lot of control over this objective, and they've equalized the Dragon score. If this goes over, Tofu going to try and steal this away. Sondak sends him over the wall. Could be a contest here.
Tofu. Got to be careful playing the time. Ezreal is coming back, though. Sin's here with full HP, full mana, could potentially be a big threat here. We're going for another Dragon trade-off. This time, again, Dunlosi keeps it in their own realm, and BROD do not claim the 3rd Dragon of theirs.
All right, I agree. How does he keep getting away with these things? Like, you know, I'm just like, all right, Ezra's base, he's TP, this is great, it looks good, and then he just gets the Dragon. I'm like, Tofu got in there in time as well. But, hey man, I think, to be fair to Dunlosi, I think he is one of the best when it comes to these clutch moments where it's like, it's not down to specifics, it is down to your instincts, your intuition. I think Dunlosi is a master at his art in that sense. But BROD and friends, they get control over this Artican now, but Belfast Storm are here to try and contest.
And is there a way that he gets his solar? Like, you know what I mean? Dunlosi's moved in. He's got ice in his veins. He's the guy with the cold smite. Can he find it again? Tofu may not even get the opportunity to get pressured out. QQR going forward, but needs to be careful. So low at the moment, Dunlosi, with so much damage. And the Azir is starting to do absolutely massive amounts. The Emperor has taken down a kill. Synapse chasing Akers. Looks like they may be able to get to them, as on the top side, Atacon was being done, but it's going to be the Ezreal that picks up the kill onto Warwick. So much is happening, and Belfast Storm are still in control. They're moving back to Atacon, who I think has reset, but they should be able to take this one down themselves.
Yeah, Atacon shreds so much of your resistances there, and you can see when QQR went in. Actually, Tofu is here to try and steal.
Smite fight again.
He's got it. He's got it.
One more smite, one more fight, one more kill, and Belfast Storm are looking for one more win to take the series. They're getting forward. QQR in trouble, locked down, but Akers in the backline looking for the low HP bars. 2 down already. BROD are moving forward. Sin going in. Lindsay will fall, and Lucy, the smite hero, takes back 1 kill, but the flowers are there. Akers is moving in. He's looking for the kill. The Maokai is about to get felled, and Akers can't find it. The distance, the space, not enough. Mitch Alistar, no way is going to get the kill. It is going to be the Alistar, but Synapse will come and clean up the kills.
Oh my god, it's absolute chaos here in the 4 nations. Synapse is trying to sniff for Mitch, and I think he's going to get him.
Oh, we're not done yet. Surely the Alistar gets away, but the jaws of the beast held him locked in. Will be headbutted back, but look how far Mitch has to run. Synapse, I think, will give up on the hunt. But what a play. What a momentum shifter. And once again, Dunlosi with the smite.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to break all of that down, but at the end of the day, it's Dunlosi that comes out on top, steals away the Artican with the smite. We're back on cams. What's up?
We're back on cams. Where's the game? Bring us back to the game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a crazy game. We're back in the game. Thanks for that. Appreciated that one.
I looked so defeated as well. It's like, oh man, what's happening?
Yeah. Oh, great. I looked happy. Now people are gonna be like, oh, he's biased. Look at him go. No, I ain't no bias. I love both teams. Both. No, but for real, crazy fight. The Artican, probably not too much. To break down other than goddamn Dunlosi. This guy don't want to lose. He wants to go to finals.
He's holding them in. Like, I won't be like, everyone in Belfast Storm is playing good, but Dunlosi is getting those moments, right? He is holding back. Like, he is giving them so much hope with these steals, right? Able to keep them very much in it. This could be already sole point for BROD and friends. This could be Atacon. They could be so far ahead just from the neutral objectives alone, and Dunlosi has held them back. But in these team fights, so you got to give a shout out to Lindsay, right? Wasn't able to do loads in the early game, but now has started to become a major problem that BROD need to deal with.
Yeah, they do, and I think QQR has done such a fantastic job at keeping Lindsay quiet for the meantime, but he started to ramp up. He's working towards that third item, which is oftentimes the big power spike for the Azir. Usually comes in the shape of a Rabadon's Death Cap, but because of the build he's gone, I actually misjudged what build he's going. It's actually Riftmaker into a lot of health shredding, which makes sense, but Sundax!
Oh, talking about the health that's about to get shredded, the Udyr is gone. We've seen this before. Sovereigns are killing the mid into more for Belfast Storm, and on the side, Synapse has found Akkers. They're trying to dash away. They will get the distance they want, but they've given up Baron control.
Baron control given up, but BROD and friends, they do have health bars to try and contest this one. Protection is half health, so they are going to go for it. QQR, eyes on him to see if he can beat the carry.
Sundax trying to hold the line. Akkers moving forward, will get locked down. Mitch able to walk pretty far up as well, and Sundax is taking so much damage into the backline. They go. The shuffle is big from the Emperor, but do they have the damage? QQR walking around, finds the kill, but Limsey hides and seeks him out. Mitch able to give a bit more space. It will force Belfast Storm to leave us in. Still pumping out a lot of damage, but a messy fight once again, and BROD only able to stop Belfast from taking that objective.
Yeah, Akkers has to sacrifice his life, but stopping that Baron was the utmost of importance for BROD and friends, and they successfully did so. What this does is it gives them a small amount of tempo to try and play for this Dragon Soul. If they get this, it gives them so much breathing room against the pressure of the scaling of the Azir Jinx, and I think this is going over to BROD and friends. So hats off to that trio that stopped that Baron take from the 5-man squad of Belfast Storm. And Akkers had to pay the price, but that's a worthy sacrifice if I've seen so myself.
Taking the Dragon, they're now on Soul Point, 1 away from picking up that Chem Tech Soul, which could be the difference maker, right? When you're low HP, when you're not taking as much damage, right? It could be a game changer. There's still so much to play for, right? Belfast Storm are looking so strong in these fights. The Jinx has been untouched in some of these, and so has Limsey, right? They're able to keep so much distance between them and QQR, or them and Akkers, and it is really starting to hurt BROD in these fights, because as they're scaling, right? We talked about it. BROD are not going to be able to match them in a straight fight, front-to-back fight.
Yeah, BROD and friends, and I think, well, QQR and Akkers, they're doing such a good job at actually finding access into the back line. Like, if you take a look at what they have in front of them, it's a Warwick and a Maokai and Nautilus to get through. They're finding fantastic angles, even hitting a public execution onto protection, or Limsey is a massive tall order, but he's able to do so. And if they can keep doing that, putting pressure on the back line, that is where they find advantages in the fights. But yeah, you cannot underestimate the damage that the Azir Jinx is doing, and it was brought up in the broadcast, like, this is the backline in the late game to have, and for Belfast Storm, it's always a threat that they are posing in these late game fights.
And it's also the thought that they did a sneaky Baron last time. They were able to do it with the Jinxes here. They could do it again, right? BROD have to permanently be ready for that, and it's going to constrict their movement around the map, right? Akkers also doesn't have that same 1v1 potential against Synapse that he did in that last game, right? The Volleyball was able to do so much more against the Udyr than Akkers is on this Ambessa against that Warwick because of the healing potential.
Exactly, and you can see Akkers is having to constantly recall and refresh, while Synapse can just regenerate his health on the minion wave, meaning he doesn't need to just persistently base. Akkers has to plant himself on the side lane here. And they're entering some sort of fight as seeing the health bars being chunked out. I don't know what's going on there. Both half HP. Okay.
They're gonna fight it out. They're gonna fight out. Synapse is taking a lot of damage here.
dead.
Akkers might get it. There's infinite choice. That's so much healing back though. And Synapse basically got a whole nother health bar. He might as well have just got GA. And Synapse able to win the trade. Man, this champion is broken, man. Someone nerf Warwick.
Honestly, every time I watch it's just so goofy, isn't it? It's just like, come on, like, how is this in the game? Because, like, he gets stronger and more healing the lower he is. But
to be fair, where's the anti-heal for Akkers? Build anti-heal.
Good point. That is a good point.
Someone build anti-heal for the Warwick, please. But at the moment, Akkers going to go in for round 2. No ultimate for Synapse, and now no ultimate for Akkers either. So it's one that will probably just be found a little bit later on.
Little goofy stuff happening in there. You know, QQR though.
Oh, QQR looking for the kill. Protection in big trouble. It does manage to stay alive. The Sonya's for QQR keeps him up. And Lemsey has got so much damage. And a big boom from the Jinx. It's time for Belfast Storm once again.
Oh, Akkers is dead as well. It's just kills happening in the mid lane, in the bot lane. as BROD and friends, it's echoes of the previous game. It's individual mistakes happening across the map. There's no objective that neither team are fighting over either. And off the back of that, Belfast Storm, they're going to get that bot lane turret. They're going to get this mid lane turret. It just gives them more control over this Baron objective. And
it's happening again.
Yeah, it's happening again. It's happening again. And for Belfast Storm, such an unfortunate situation for QQR, but that was a little disrespectful to try to go for an individual player onto a Fed Azir and Jinx. You just cannot do that at this point in the game. And Baron has been started here.
It's been started, and Sunlight is going to stop Tofu from getting anywhere near it. It's already taken down, and Tofu now in big trouble, gets hooked back, could be dead. That's it. And Belfast Storm, they've got a kill lead. They are now moving forward with the Baron. They can go back to base. They've got the gold lead by 5,000 gold, Sovereigns, and they can just play for the end of the game. They don't need to go for this dragon. They can just go for the base.
Yep, and just like that, I mean, I have to commend QQR for how he's played for the entirety of this game. But if you're playing against players with this much experience, you cannot be making those mistakes at this point in the game. They will punish you. And when I mean punish, they will take everything that you have. And Belfast Storm now they're in the control of the gold lead. They have the Baron buff in their hands. Those tier 2s are no longer present. They are pushing through the base of BROD and friends, and they have to defend.
BROD need to pull out something absolutely sublime if they want to get anywhere near close. Belfast Storm at the moment, they are so dangerous. The turret is down. The Azir, the Jinx, they're putting in so much damage. The TP into the backline is there, but the Azir is coming as well to once again protection. And at the moment, they can just keep walking into the base. Inhib is going to fall.
Inhib down. Jinx is going to get excited, and that TP flank kind of amounted to nothing, but he is looking. Got Tofu behind him, but I don't think this is going to amount to anything. Belfast Storm get that inhibitor for basically free. There was no resistance from BROD and friends there.
Oh, a lot of damage there coming out from the True Shot Barrage, although Don Nicely will just heal a decent chunk of that one back. Dragon is being started, and BROD, they're positioning like they want to fight for this, but it's so risky. One team fight loss will mean the end of the game for them, will mean the end of the playoffs for them. Tofu is dead, and this could be it. Akers having to run away from protection. They need to get back to base. They can't get caught here, but Sundex with the flash. Infinite duress. QQR in major trouble. Golden, but not going to come first. That's going to be the kill, and Belfast they are doing what no one predicted. The 2-0 is in their sights. They're in the base. They're looking to end the game, the series. They're looking to send BROD all the way home. Your ticket was for nothing, but the engage, the Alistar knocks them off. It's not enough. Protection with the kills. The turrets will go down, and Belfast Storm will win the series.
Everyone has their mouths dropped to the floor as Belfast Storm just wipe it with BROD and friends as blood. It's a 2-0 series scoreline, a dominant game, and one where the entire of the UK scene has to bow their heads in respect to Belfast Storm. They complete the 2-0 sweep. Massive respects for BROD and friends, but the end of the split is here for them. As BROD and friends, they have to say goodbye, but Belfast Storm, they progress further.
Yeah, congratulations, Belfast Storm. You know, people doubted you. You proved them wrong. I said, prove me wrong on Twitter. You did as such. You got to take your flowers where you get them. Well played. I feel like a really, really strong performance from them. BROD, they're not an anime team because they didn't have the power of friendship on their side. You know, it didn't win them the game, you know, and to be fair, I feel like a lot of it could have gone a little bit better, but either way, it is what it is. The game's the game, and Belfast Storm are the winners. We're going to throw this one to a break. When we come back, our desk will break that one down, and we'll get an interview with Sama.
one of the all-time upsets of the Four Nations in a lot of people's minds has just occurred. I'm joined by Osama, coach of Belfast Storm. How are you feeling on the back of that phenomenal victory?
I mean, honestly, like the same. As Prex said, it was Thursday, so it's Thursday for us. Nothing changed. For them, probably like, I'm really sorry for BROD. I think Prex, my ADC flamed them a lot and banned it, like, shot call a lot. So I'm really sorry for that, but it feels very good. I think for next we will be facing Bandits. It will be the same case, same drops. Nothing's gonna change, and I hope they don't ban it. So yeah.
Well, yeah, as you say, things very much stayed the same for yourself as coach, but very involved in the drafting phase, I imagine. Were you surprised that BROD and Friends didn't have any adaptation, or was that something you expected from them?
No, because so I have played against Sin. We know he's gonna walk up to mid wave. If he's Ezreal, he's Varus, it's the same thing. We're gonna press ult on him. We pick Nautilus, which is CC, okay? He's gonna walk up mid, we're gonna ult him, he's gonna dead, and then we won the game. 2 times it happened. Same goes with the jungler. He did the same thing. So for the draft, we just gathered up. We knew what we had to ban before. That's pretty much it, I think. But we just decided like first pick Maokai, and that's it. Just pick CC, and then they would lose. I guess, yeah. Very simple as that. And Braum second phase. And Mitch needs to play more solo queue.
I think you're absolutely right to sound confident and proud of the way you've seen this, because it sounds to me like you've come into this and really researched your opponents, something that some of the other teams against some of the top opposition have been accused of not doing well enough, and you've come in with a game plan. You've executed the game plan well.
Yep.
Your reward is now this matchup against 200 Bandits. You say you're coming out and you're going to do the same thing again.
Yep.
Are we going to be seeing the same result?
Probably yes, I guess. But I think we lost every single scrim for the playoffs. We didn't win a single scrim. So when we don't win scrims, we know we're gonna win officials. So that's for us. Like, I think that's like Synapse has been running it down for the whole scrims. My jungler missed every single smite in the scrims. Didn't win a single smite. So I mean, now he's not missing it. Synapse is not running it. So it works out, I guess, as well. But like, I mean, I'm really proud of my players overall. We didn't win a single scrim though. This is actually a fact. For the past 2 weeks, we didn't win a single scrim.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, Dunlosey certainly seemed like he was saving Smite for the important matches, and boy, came up trumps time and time again. And in a moment, I'm going to be asking the fantastic analysts on desk for their MVP of the series and for these games.
Yeah.
How about for yourself as a coach? Obviously, you've got to be proud of the entire team, but if you were the one responsible for giving the MVP, who would you be giving it to today?
I think it would be Sundex, because obviously in the comps and everything, plus like Liam, both of them played really well. But Sundex, I would say, like, would be the MVP, because what he did in the game is he's basically holding the lines. Like, he's trying to set up the whole objective, and he's not letting people walk in. So yeah, and hopefully we should be in the LAN, because I live in Manchester. There is no way I'm dropping the LAN. So yeah, should be fine.
Sam, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations to you and the team. Go and celebrate with them. We look forward to seeing more of you against 200 Bandits. All the best.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, you've heard it there that Summer would give the MVP to Sundax. And how about yourselves? Rory, would you have agreed with that?
It was between two for the MVP, which was Dunlos and Sundax. I think they both achieved the same role in the game, just Sundax was a bit flashier in how he achieved it. But there were
Literally,
4 contested smites this series, and Dunlosi won every single one of them. And they were key. Like, if he missed any of them, like especially the Atakan, if he missed that Atakan smite, the game would have just flipped. So I really want to give it to Dunlosi this game.
Harold, friend, you look a tiny bit disheveled, perhaps slightly mentally traumatized by what you've just witnessed. But first, coming over to the MVP, would you agree with either of those 2 prior comments in regards to what Summer and Rory have just said?
I mean, I think so. It's for me. It was either, it was gonna be either Dunlosi or Limsey. Honestly, Limsey's looked fantastic in both games on the Azir. I mean, one of the MVPs for Belfast Storm was the person that was doing drafts for BROD, but I do think In terms of gameplay, it was genuinely Limsy. Limsy was solo killed the QQR in game 1, looked really solid in game 2, held the line, had good ults, kept playing at this consistent high level of control with the Azir that made it really difficult for any fight to be a wash.
Thank you, Harold. I'm sorry to cut you off there. I just can't get over the fact that we've just witnessed what was one of the messiest, craziest, most insane games of the Four Nations, which here at the Four Nations really saying something. And we've had one of the most unexpected results coming out on the back of it. But just to try to investigate. Thanks, production. I think you'll notice on the graphic there. Actually, if you can bring it back up. What actually happened was just before the matchup. I think you've accidentally put the 2s on the no. But that's a delight. But yes, this was one of the craziest games we've gone. How do we even go about breaking that down, Rory?
It's really hard to, but I think that's the best way I can put it. Is BROD and friends came into this tournament joking, laughing, saying, "Oh, we're doing our Brexit style of gaming." Unfortunately, when you're playing Brexit, it means you no longer remain in the tournament, and that's really rough for them. I said earlier that if they did fall out today, they would be doing sad beers in the pub. But maybe after the games today, they're doing something stronger.
At times, it felt, especially kind of looking at some of those drafts, some of the decision making, like a little bit like what we've experienced with BROD and friends throughout the series. Sometimes, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and unfortunately, that seemed like the end result with some of the way they were just too happy to coin flip things. Yet again, we saw another throw at Atakan even before the eventual Smite fight. Harold.
Yeah, I do think. Again, thinking about MVPs, Don Lucy, he did What happened to him between regular season and now?
He locked in.
That is true. He locked in. Contrary to most of BROD, he locked in. I think playing that fight the way they did, they managed to buy so much time for the carries to reposition, get in a good state where they can start hitting again without having the threat of the dive, because perfect execution and public execution were both burnt. They still had the work in the fight, able to just zone using the fear, using the Q. It was really well executed on all fronts for the side of Belfast Storm. They fumbled a little bit in the early game. I think they fell into the trap that BROD always tries to lie, where they're going to make a fight look weird, and then they're going to outhand you.
Yeah.
And immediately after that, they realized, we can't never do this. We can't ever take a fight without full information. And then they just started playing front to back every single time. Group as 5, fight. Group as 5, fight. It doesn't matter the situation, just group as 5 and fight.
They did it well. They did it to such an emphatic result as well. The 2-0 against the when we talk about sort of the normal table, it was an 8-1 BROD and friends team, a team who'd only lost to Venom Crest. They won't get their rematch against 200 Bandits now. That will be the price for Belfast Storm, who will go on to face 200 Bandits for the right to go to land to face Venom Crest. Rory, based on what you've seen, do you think there's a world where now Belfast Storm go take 200 Bandits out and maybe even push Venom Crest?
It's really hard to say. To answer your second question first, I don't think they're strong enough to beat Venom Crest. I think Venom Crest just naturally have the edge when it comes to macro and individual talent. Now, against 200 Bandits, it's a bit interesting because we haven't seen them having to display any difficult picks today, right? They got their comfort twice in a row. So if 200 Bandits fall asleep at the wheel during draft, yeah, sure, maybe. They get their Jinx, they get their Azir, they get their Maokai in the first rotation. But honestly, this game as a whole, it's really hard to judge when BROD seemingly weren't trying to punish in draft.
Harold,
so yeah.
Sorry, Harold. Any final thoughts from yourself in regards to this series and also going forward through the Four Nations tournament?
next time, lock in, BROD. I think Belfast have done excellently to get here. We've clearly done the work, and respect must be given over to them. Going
Right.
forwards, we can't either have 200 bandits and then possibly Venom Crest disrespect this team.
Mhm.
Because we just saw what happened when an 8-1 team disrespects them. Next step, the 9-0.
Next step, the 9-0 team. Will they ever tumble? We'll only find that out a little bit later on with our fantastic finals that will be coming our way very, very shortly. We've still got one more match of the season before that happens, though, so make sure to tune in to the 200 Bandits against now Belfast Storm match coming your way very, very shortly. Make sure to follow us UKEL on socials to keep up with all the Four Nations activity. But from myself, Greyheart, and from Rory and Harold here on the desk, from our fantastic casters, J Real and Savonix, and our tremendous production, especially the ever wonderful Casual Cutie, we are going to say good night for now. We'll see you next time.